How the fuck is this stupid show still going? Hey, you know what? At least the last Future Arc scene was really good, so maybe the next Future Arc episode will be really good too? Let's find out. We begin with the same scene that we saw at the end of the last episode. Like, one for one, we just watched the end of the last episode again. They straight up trimmed off the final minute of episode 9 and stapled it onto the beginning of episode 10, and that leads us into our intro theme song. Did you really need to repeat what we already saw? Was that really necessary? I mean, hey, it saves me even 3 minutes worth of analysis since I already broke the scene down last time, so, no complaints for me. One theme song later, Makoto leaves the room to go confront the Steel Samurai, fueled with determination and rage after seeing Kyoko die. John Lasseter tries to stop him and gets pissed at Makoto for going to confront him, accusing him of running away from the situation because he's a certified grade A cactus prick. But thankfully, Hina steps in to reassure Makoto that she approves of his plan and believes in him and his determination to put an end to the violence. Then he stumbles across the shattered remains of BB-8's body and feels the big sad because of it. Dude, you're feeling sad over a robot that lacked any sentient capabilities and who you didn't actually know. If he's upset because the robot got destroyed, this isn't someone like Baymax who actually has a sentient personality. It was literally just a shell. The thing went on autopilot mode and was just following its programming. And up until that point, it was essentially just a glorified RC car being controlled by Monica. What are you getting worked up about? And I'm not even gonna entertain the idea that you're sad over Gecko herself dying, because you literally had absolutely no idea who she was and never met her. You never knew who she really was. How could you possibly have an emotional reaction over this? It's kind of like in Dual Destinies when it's revealed that Detective Fulbright was never actually himself and has simply been impersonated by the Phantom the entire time. Like, it's okay, am I supposed to feel sad? We never knew the real Fulbright. We didn't find out that the real Fulbright was the detective all along, and we didn't find out that we actually did know the real Fulbright, but he was killed and replaced halfway through the story. He's just been impersonated by some random faceless creature the entire time. It's the same thing here. You just found out Monica was impersonating her the entire time. Who exactly are you feeling sad for? The robot that wasn't sentient, or the dead person you never knew? Because it sure as hell ain't the genocidal little shit that fucked off to space after terrorizing your sister, and by extension, me, for 18 hours. Next, the Steel Samurai becomes the villain. Again, because the show ran out of plot. Again. And this time around, his ingenious plan is that he wants to commit mass genocide and murder every single person on the planet until he's the only one left standing because he wants to eradicate despair. No, I'm not kidding. I'm not lying. That's actual dialogue from the show. Do you even need me to explain to you why this logic makes no sense? Do you need me to point out the glaring contradiction that on his quest to stop the spread of despair, he's just going to encourage it by committing a genocide? Do you need me to break down how fundamentally broken the concept of killing off every potential host so they don't contract a disease is? Or, in this case, succumb to despair is? No, I'm not gonna do that. This is so blatantly moronic, I'm just not even gonna bother. Let's just move right along. So you may be wondering what Makoto's brilliant plan to stop the Steel Samurai is. Well, you see, he put a lot of thought into it. Previously, his plan was to try to reason with him through the power of words. And now, after careful consideration, his new plan is to try to reason with him through the power of words. Makoto? What are you doing? Your plan is stupid. You already tried this. It didn't work. The Steel Samurai is straight up delusional. You cannot possibly reason with this man. He genuinely believes that the only way to stop the spread of despair is to kill off everyone on the planet so there's no one left for despair to spread to. That's not a joke. I'm not making this shit up. He actually said that. He wholeheartedly believes that. This man cannot be reasoned with. Please try a new strategy. Sadly, Makoto doesn't listen to me and tries to reason with the Steel Samurai anyway, and so he pisses him off and the chase commences. I can't wait to see this awesome action sequence. No, really, I'm sure it'll be amazing. We then cut back to Hina, who notices something underneath Kyoko's body. No, I don't know what she's looking at. Hopefully we'll find out soon. Hey, you know what? My brain hasn't actually broken in a while. Sure, we've had some dumb stuff, but we're almost halfway through the episode, and we haven't encountered any major moments that made my brain want to explode yet. Maybe things are finally looking up for this show. Nope! Makoto turns on the sprinkler system, which dispenses enough water to flood the damn room. And then he drops 2 wires into the water and tries to fucking electrocute the Steel Samurai. And he fails. How do you fail this colossally? Actually, no, scratch that. Do you actually expect me to believe that Makoto would ever be willing to murder the Steel Samurai for literally any reason? Bullshit. Yeah, I know that I said Makoto should try something other than reasoning with him, but that doesn't mean you fucking kill him. You have choices that don't involve murder, like trying to disarm him, or trap him in a room, or subdue him. You don't have to immediately resort to trying to electrocute him when the going gets rough. Also, the fact that he failed to actually kill him is equally bullshit. There's no fucking way he was able to react fast enough to jab his sword into the ground and then use it to propel himself up into the ceiling. Bullshit. And even if he somehow did possess these supernatural reaction times, how are you not getting zapped by the metal handle of your sword? You know, that thing that conducts electricity? Bullshit. And even if we lived in a world where metal was not a conductor of electricity, you are actually hilarious if you expect me to believe that this sword would be sturdy enough to launch himself up into the ceiling with a base this fucking thin. Bullshit. And even if you were able to accept the idea that he'd be able to steady himself on this thin-ass sword long enough to trampoline himself upward, there is absolutely no chance chance in hell that this flimsy-ass wire just so happened to be hanging right there and was strong enough to support all of your body weight. Bullshit. My point here is that you're fucking dead. There's no goddamn way you survive this shit no matter how you slice it. So then he shoots Makoto with his wrist gun? You had a wrist gun attached? Since fucking when? Why weren't you using this earlier? And then the water just stops being electrified? What the fuck? Wait a minute, where the fuck did all the water go? None of this makes any sense. If you're going to try to tell me that the water evaporated because it uses superheated flames, so that you can fuck right off with that bullshit, because even if we assume that the water was instantly set to its boiling point, with the amount of water in this room, it still wouldn't instantly evaporate. The battle is then moved out of the room, during which the Steel Samurai wobbles his way down the hall, only to find Makoto waiting around the corner with a fire extinguisher? What is this show's obsession with fire extinguishers? Why is this always your go-to weapon of choice? Anyway, he jumps over the rubble and gets knocked the fuck out by the Steel Samurai, who apparently knew he'd be there because he followed his trail of blood. Oops. But then he tries to use the fire extinguisher? You tried to use it earlier and it didn't work, remember? Isn't that why you came to the specific spot? Because you knew that you'd find the fire extinguisher here? So why would you try to use it again? And if it's not the same one that you just happened to bump into yet another fucking fire extinguisher, then first of all, wow, that's lucky. Yeah, you're the ultimate lucky student. It's still the same lazy plot progression they used for Nagito. But also, no, fuck that luck shit, because you mean to tell me that you're so goddamn unlucky that both fire extinguishers you tried to use jammed? Careful, future arc. You're letting the stupidity of Nagito's inconsistent luck pattern slip into your story. Also, why did you bother leaping out from cover at all? Just wait until he turns around and then chuck it at his head. What are you doing? Who wrote the script? Don't throw it while he's facing you, you rusted doorknob! And then the fire extinguisher takes off like a fucking rocket and flies in a straight line directly into the back of his head. How fucking lucky. Makoto then Spartan charges the Steel Samurai down the same hole he fell down earlier, and despite the fact that he would have been on top of him when falling, Makoto was somehow the one who ends up sprawled out onto his back and heavily injured, while the Steel Samurai is somehow perfectly fine. Whatever. Fuck you, show. I'm so sick of this bullshit. Hey, remember earlier when Makoto was shot in the thigh? Yeah, well, they just forgot all about that. He's fine now. Because fuck you, that's why. So then the Steel Samurai swings his sword down to finish off Makoto, and so he fucking dies. Oh, wait! No, he doesn't! Why? Because the Steel Samurai's secret achievement is that he can't open doors, and therefore needs Makoto alive, or else he'd be trapped in this room forever. Except that makes no fucking sense at all, because we've already established that these walls are made out of paper mache. Just ram through the goddamn wall. But okay, fine. Let's pretend that this scene never happened and these walls are completely indestructible. Did you chuckle fucks forget about that big-ass hole in the ceiling? You can still climb out. Climb on top of the rubble and clamber your way out of the hole. Or how about you just do that stupid fucking sword launch thing you did not 2 minutes ago, you amnesiac goldfish. Just launch yourself up through the ceiling and you can escape. You don't need Makoto alive for that. Since the Steel Samurai refuses to kill Makoto, he decides to torture him instead, prattling on the whole time about how he's the enemy and a horrible person who's been consumed by despair. And like I explained in episode 4, there is a massive dissonance between what the show needs us to believe for this scene to have weight and what we actually know about these characters. So I'm just left staring at the screen with my head buried in my hands, asking one simple question. Who wrote this?
You keep saying that. Need I remind you, while you paid lip service to vacuous platitudes, your friend Kirigiri died?
If you say the word platitude one more fucking time, I swear to God I will smack you with a newspaper. You lack even the most basic self-awareness to realize that with how many goddamn times you've used this word, you have turned it into a platitude in and of itself. Then the Steel Samurai tries to get Makoto on his side by saying, "We are not so different, you and I, because you see we have both lost a waifu. So you should now join me on my quest to find the Ark of the Covenant." Stop the spread of despair. And I found myself asking, what the fuck? What are you talking about? Makoto lost Sayaka in the very first goddamn game. Someone he had known since he was in middle school, and someone he developed romantic feelings towards in the hours before she was murdered. He watched his friends in the first game get murdered and then their killers subsequently executed. I have no idea where you keep pulling this "aha, now you know true despair" bullshit from, because he's been dealing with this since the very first game. So you can take your "we are not so different" monologue and shut up your ass, you deluded pancake. And then we get a scene during which he attempts to explain his motives, and we get to hear what old guy said to him back in episode 5. Turns out he said that
there's more than one. We're all of us responsible. The entire Foundation. In a manner of speaking, every single member is the attacker.
So, you and I know what he's talking about because we actually sat down in the thinking chair for longer than 5 seconds. So, we know that what he's saying here is that anyone could be the attacker because the deaths are all suicides, and that anybody could be woken up during the sleepy time segments to kill themselves. That is what he is referring to when he says that. But his exact word choice is,
"Not one soul is left uncorrupted by despair.
which is just straight up wrong. We know full well that these people, not you, have not been corrupted by despair. You have worded your explanation in such an abhorrent way that what you were actually telling him does not line up with the truth of the situation or the events that have taken place. Now, what do we call when people make statements which are directly contradicted by the truth? Oh yeah, lies! You know, those things that old guy isn't allowed to tell because of his secret achievement. So just to make sure we all understand this perfectly clearly, old guy told a lie, and that lie is the sole reason why the Steel Samurai goes on his murder quest and why he killed his most trusted ally in cold blood, despite the fact that old guy isn't supposed to be able to tell a lie. Okay then, fuck the hell off, you dumbass show. Who wrote this? Then it is revealed that Athena murdered a group of missing children, and she announces this by saying, "It's me." Then the Steel Samurai beats up Makoto some more. He kicks the ever-living shit out of him and beats him to a fucking pulp until Makoto's like, "Yeah, she's the purple guy and all, but like, y'all were chill before she went insane." And this convinces him to stop brutalizing Makoto. No, I don't know why, just don't think about it. Remember, thinking is offensive. Then he does a yell and they sit in silence for a bit until he starts crying, and then Hina bursts through the doors, immediately rushing to Makoto's side after seeing the Steel Samurai beat him senseless. Nice to see there's still a small sense of character left in this slow-motion car crash we call a show. It is revealed that the object Hina saw in Kyoko's back pocket was actually her handy-dandy notebook. So it looks like we're finally gonna get some answers, but then the episode ends. Fucking kill me. I guess we're gonna have to wait for next time to find out what's written inside the handy-dandy notebook. Alright then, what's up next for the despair arc?
Uh-oh, how unfortunate. Uh-oh, how unfortunate. I know how much you like to fight, so I'll add a new problem to your night.
No, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do this. You can't make me do this. You can't force me to watch Jockey get put through the ringer for the second goddamn time in a row. Oh, fucking whatever. I have a series to finish. Let's just get this bullshit over with. Before we start this next episode, I need to signpost this with a warning. Go get a pillow. No, seriously, go get a pillow. I'm being completely serious right now. Go to your bedroom and grab a pillow and hold on to it real tight, because you are going to want to punch something really, really badly by the time this episode is done. Let's get this train wreck started. We begin with Athena leading Shocky down an ominous hallway, and I can already feel myself tensing up with rage. One theme song later, which is a bit tonally balked considering the circumstances, we cut back to the park where Matt and Junko are about to have the battle, and wait, the battle's over? What the fuck? You cut out the battle? You cut out the scene where Matt kicks the shit out of Junko? Why? What is it with you guys in smash cutting away from action scenes whenever there's a chance that things are gonna get interesting and just cutting to the aftermath? Who taught you how to write scripts? If you're at home listening to this and you're working on writing your own stuff, never do this. Never ever do this. Never build up to an action scene only to smash cut away as soon as it begins, and then the next time you cut back, the battle's already over. Do you understand why this is a problem? No? Well, then allow me to present you an alternate version of a different fight scene and see if you still don't have a problem with this.
I think you'll find our will equal to yours.
Wow, everyone! My name is Wubsy.
Wubsy lives in a tree, he likes to play. He's got a bendy tail and he likes it that way.
You have my respect, Stark.
Do you see why this doesn't work? To tee up a climactic fight scene, only to cut away to some other random bullshit, skip right over the whole battle, and then just cut straight to the aftermath sometime later? This is atrocious writing. This is absolutely awful. Who fucking wrote this? Anyway, it turns out that Junko won? Wait, what do you mean she won? How did that happen? How do you outwit a trained security officer in combat when all you got is a fucking baseball bat? What is happening anymore? Who wrote the script? And thus begins the scene that breaks the entire fucking show. The scene that single-handedly leads to the downfall of society. You better fucking brace yourselves. It is revealed that Matt actually has a massive crush on the Steel Samurai, which explains why he's the only character in the entire show we gave even half a shit about up until this point, except hold on a fucking second. How in the world did Junko deduce this information? She said that she was spying on Matt through his window and she saw him holding a picture of the Steel Samurai. Really? Cool story, bro. You caught me holding a picture. Next point of evidence? Oh, wait, that's all you got? Fucking lol. Oh, sorry, did I gloss over that? Well, then allow me to go over it clearly. Junko threatens Matt by saying that he needs to tell the Steel Samurai that she is completely innocent and had nothing to do with the student massacre. And if he doesn't do that, she will tell him that Matt has feelings for him. Question: how? How are you gonna do that? I know that question sounds stupid, but really think about it. If she's just gonna send him a fucking email or something, why would he place any faith whatsoever in an anonymous email about his personal life? How could you think that that would have any sway over him whatsoever? Even if you attach the photo in your email, this proves nothing. Imagine if you were the Steel Samurai and you got an email from some random fuck telling you that one of your closest friends has a crush on you. Are you gonna tell me with a straight face that your knee-jerk reaction would be to take this random anonymous email as gospel? Especially when you've already had to deal with one anonymous email that spread around blatantly false information about the student massacre? And if you're gonna just walk up to him and tell him face to face, then you're just gonna get arrested on the spot. But that pales in comparison to what happens on Matt's side of things. When presented with this dichotomy, Matt is so desperate to keep his secret that he is willing to let Junko run free. The insane bitch that got an entire class of children killed. The insane bitch planning on brainwashing the main students. The insane bitch planning on taking over the fucking world and bringing it to its knees. Matt lets her go. He chooses keeping his secret over the fate of the fucking world. Hey, remember that thing you said a few episodes ago?
Don't let emotions mess with the job you're here to do.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Don't let emotions mess with the job you're here to do.
Just one more time to be sure.
Don't let emotions mess with the job you're here to do.
Well, gee, look at that. Looks like you can't even stand by your own words, you hypocritical cheese grater. Don't you think that when you, the world, and the person you love with all your heart are in danger of dying or being brainwashed, that you might prioritize stopping the psychopath planning on taking over the world above anything else? But you know what? Let's completely disregard the option of preemptively admitting his feelings to the Steel Samurai and taking that bullet out of her chamber. Here's the thing. I don't even need that option to be on the table for my criticism of Matt's actions to hold any water, because he can just try something else! Remember when Tony Stark was held captive in a cave and told to make a Jericho missile or else he'd be killed? Well, obviously he wasn't going to give them a highly dangerous weapon, but he couldn't exactly sit idly by either. So what did he do instead? He agreed to make the weapon for them on the surface, taking extreme precautions to make sure it looked like he was actually gathering materials and drawing blueprints for a missile, when in reality he was cleverly concealing his true project, the first Iron Man armor, which he uses to break out of the cave and escape with his life. How about you do the same thing here? Agree to tell the Steel Samurai you're innocent, wait for her to walk away, then get up to your feet and tackle her to the ground while her back is turned to you when she's walking away! She can't stop you when she's not even looking in your direction. Don't just lie down on the ground like some kind of useless muppet. Actually, what is wrong with you? She's right there! She's right in front of you! You are literally never going to get a better chance to restrain her and end this entire franchise, and yet you don't fucking do anything about it. Who wrote this? So then we go back to the Losers Club on their quest to rescue Athena, and hey, remember when the staircase just led directly to the animator studio? Yeah, well now it leads you down some random hallway, because fuck you, that's why. Continuity's for weenies. Then Mikon hurries to catch up with them, and they only just now notice that Chiaki's not with them anymore. So how does Mikon cover her betrayal of the group?
Oh, I think she twisted her ankle a ways back and decided to lay down in a spare room till she felt comfortable putting weight on it again.
What? That's the best you got. That is the most blatantly obvious lie I've ever heard before. Frank Solid was a better liar than you. There weren't any spare rooms down this big-ass empty hallway. What are you talking about? But they believe this? How? How could you possibly believe this blatantly obvious lie? Why is everyone in this universe so fucking stupid? Why does everyone's cranium have an entire mansion's worth of space to rent? Wait a minute, how did Nekomaru and Tanaka get down here a different way than how you all got down here? There's only one entrance into the secret passage. Oh, and did you want to see how the battle between those two and the protesters went? How that could potentially affect the school dynamic moving forward? What the repercussions could be? If they tried to show restraint against the protesters and fought strictly defensively to hold them off long enough for the friends to escape without actively attacking them? Or hell, even on a purely superficial level, did you just want to see a cool fight scene? Well, fuck all that. Actually showing action scenes is for weenies. Oh, and are you wondering how they even found the secret passage in the first place? Well, apparently Mikon told them where they were either by texting or calling them, which, first of all, there's no fucking way you're getting any reception this far down underground. But second of all, we now have definitive proof that you all have Mikon's phone number and didn't just fucking call her when you were trying to figure out where she was. Good Christ almighty, who wrote this? The team then approaches a very familiar looking doorway, while Chiaki also approaches a very familiar looking doorway and is shoved into a very familiar looking elevator by Athena, while the rest of the students are taken into a very familiar looking room, while Chiaki is sent to her execution with a very familiar looking animation. Feel nostalgia, be nostalgic, like our show, damn it! And thus begins the worst part of the entire goddamn series. Welcome to Indiana Jones and the Temple of Fuck Me. Chiaki has apparently been thrown into a real-life video game temple level that she has to escape if she wants to live to see the sun again. I am not fucking kidding you. Junko built an Indiana Jones temple in the real world for Chiaki to traverse, all while her classmates watch in horror. I am not lying to you. This is real. This actually fucking happens in the show. How could she she ever have possibly constructed this? Where do you keep generating all these magic resources from? Do you have a supply pad that just keeps funneling in materials from the Spirit of Fire? Did someone give you admin permissions to access creative mode? How are you doing this? How did you build this? Who wrote this? What happened to the script? When did it contract cancer and why is nobody doing anything to treat it? Then Chiaki is shown having to dodge floor spikes, saws spinning out of the walls, and a giant rolling boulder. Oh, and by the way, while all this shit is happening, her classmates are standing around like useless cabbages watching it happen and they have no fucking idea what to do! Connect the dots, you decrepit gremlins! Who was the last person to have been seen with Chiaki? Mikan! Just interrogate her to find out where Chiaki is and how to get to her! She's terrified of literally everything, she'll crack in 2 fucking seconds! All you gotta do is just hold Hyoko in front of her and she'll crumble like a house of cards! Oh, but you see, they can't move! They are literally paralyzed from head to toe, unable to move even a single muscle except for the lips apparently. And yes, you are assuming correctly. The live footage of Chiaki's torture is what is causing everyone here to be brainwashed into being unable to move. This makes no goddamn sense. You can't do any subliminal editing or cinematography magic on a live broadcast. And even if you could do that, the animator isn't even here. How are you doing this? And in case I haven't made it clear how stupid this is, let's finally slow this down and take a second to talk about how much brainwashing annihilates the Danganronpa series. First of all, they fucking destroyed Junko Enoshima with this brainwashing garbage. A villain who was established as someone who brought the world to its knees by being callously manipulative and deceptive, finding the weaknesses and fears of every single person in the class, and twisting all of them to her advantage, finding where it hurts the most and pressing as hard as she can until they crack, has been reduced to someone who throws a video up on a screen and watches everyone's brains turn to mush as they all get strung up on puppet strings. There's no other way to describe this than lazy. Junko would never have been interested in controlling an army of mindless Muppets because they wouldn't have truly fallen to despair. They're just being directly told what to do at all times. She would have wanted to break every single one of these fuckers, to get to the core of their insecurities and pull on that one loose thread that would cause their entire worldviews to unravel in an instant. To physically watch someone consciously throw away all their moral principles in favor of despair. She wouldn't have wanted to just play a video for the class and control their goddamn minds. You are a villain who, for all of her faults, had an incredibly intimidating method of gaining control over people, and you reduced her character to a fucking hypnotic magician. Oh, and remember in the first episode when I mentioned that you might try to defend the Future Foundation by saying, of course Makoto's a traitor, the remnants of despair need to face consequences for their actions. Yeah? Well, guess what? That defense just went straight down the toilet because now they've all been absolved of all responsibility. The remnants of despair have now all been converted into winter soldiers, merciless killers who bear no accountability for their actions because they didn't make a single choice of their own volition. Every action they took was a result of being brainwashed. So sorry everyone, but that defense just crumbled to pieces. And in case you think they're gonna go the route of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier and actually show these characters dealing with the emotional weight and trauma of having taken away so many innocent lives, then I'm so sorry to disappoint you that concept is far too complex for the show to handle. You have way too much faith in these writers. And as if all that wasn't enough, this stupid brainwashing technology literally makes the entire first game irrelevant. Because if you can convert people to despair by just showing them a video, then why don't you just broadcast a video for all the world to see since you're already broadcasting the killing game anyway? Fuck me, this is so goddamn stupid. The circumstances that led up to this point are complete fucking nonsense. The only reason we're in this mess at all is because Chiaki got yeeted down some random ass trash chute, which only happened because her classmates weren't paying any attention to their surroundings, which there's no explanation for. And this all only happened because they all have to go on a rescue mission for Athena, which only happened because Athena ran to rescue Chiaki and got herself lobotomized in the process, which only happened because the ultimate lucky student's fucking gun jammed at the worst possible time, leading him getting shot, which only happened because Nagito accidentally stumbled into the correct pressure plate combination required to find a secret fucking passage in the middle of the goddamn park, which only happened because the class went on a rescue mission for Mikan, which only happened because they were all too stupid to think to just call her on their phones, which they only had to do because Mikan went searching for John Lasseter and was kidnapped, which only happened because he just so happened to bump into Junko on his way to the school infirmary and got himself abducted, which only happened because Among Us decided the best course of action after watching his friend pass out from exhaustion was to kidnap Mikan and force her to cure him, which only happened because Lasseter overworked himself to the point of malnutrition, which only happened because he has a fucking anime obsession! Who wrote this? What is this pig excrement of a script? And all of that bullshit leads to this insane Indiana Jones temple scene where the writers fillet themselves over the most horrific fucking death in the entire goddamn series. Chiaki is fucking brutalized in this scene. She is stabbed in her thigh by a floor spike, pelted in the face with high-velocity baseballs making contact directly on her eyeball, has her neck snapped backwards as she's pinned to the wall by her hoodie, shot in her thigh again by a different spike, and all the while enduring the stress and anxiety induced by dodging every other Indiana Jones trap you lace these walls with, culminating in her being stabbed to death by a million fucking spikes all over her body. Who wrote this torture porn? That's all this shit is. This isn't a story. This is just you wanking off over torturing characters who already had their death scene for no reason at all. She already died. She had her moment. She had her execution. She made her sacrifice. We already had to watch her die once, but then they force you to watch her to die again for the second time in this godforsaken series, and it's all the result of the most nonsensical chain of events I may have ever seen in any story ever, culminating in the other classmates all succumbing to despair through lazy-ass brainwashing. Fuck off! And then, as if that wasn't fucking enough, Chiaki somehow survived that shit. We have to watch her suffer in pain as her body is covered in wounds of all sorts from every direction and every type of obstacle imaginable. A sliver of hope is dangled in front of her as Izuru shows up and Chiaki tries with all her might to remind him of who he used to be, who they used to be. And then we have to watch her struggle to get up, to fight with every ounce of strength she has left, to stand up and walk away in one piece, pleading that she's not ready to go. She's not ready to leave this world. She doesn't want to die. There's still so much left for her to do, so many things she wants to see, and above all else, she wants to be there as a beacon of hope for her classmates. She is sprawled out on the floor begging, literally fucking begging and sobbing to be able to play just one more game with Hajime before she goes, only for her to fall limp on the ground and fucking die for the second goddamn time in this series. Both times. Chiaki was fucked over twice, and both times she was killed off by these moronic writers. It was because of the most nonsense chain of events ever. Both times were the culmination of a build-up predicated on either utterly ridiculous bullshit or literal luck, or maybe a little bit of both, just so they can dangle the best character they've ever written in front of you, and then wank themselves off over brutalizing and torturing her before ripping the life right out of her body, and forcing you to watch her suffer on the ground for committing the terrible crime of wanting to help her friends. All because these writers have no idea how to chain together events in a way that's even semi-logical. Fuck you, you dumbass writers. Fuck yourselves to infinity and beyond. Go fuck yourselves into oblivion, you talentless, incompetent hacks! Well, on the bright side, surely this means that things can't get worse from here on out. Right?